What have you been up to? It's been a couple weeks now.
Yeah. For Halloween, I just ended up visiting a friend in Davis. It's his last semester, so we thought we'd just make a visit.
For sure.
Yeah. What about you? How was your last couple of weeks?
Well, it's Halloween, so I worked because, you know, work at a bar.
Yeah.
That's where all the money's made, is on those kind of days. So we got to dress up, have fun. I literally worked from like Thursday to Monday. So.
Yeah.
Did
you get a bunch of tips or?
Yeah, tips were good, but I got to work with some. I got to work a pretty cool party too.
Okay. Was it like a private party or was it?
Yeah, it was a private event.
So someone like rented out the whole bar?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah,
that's probably hella expensive though.
Yeah.
How many people did they have?
Less than 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys still make them do like the mask stuff, or they don't have to, right? Because it's like a private.
Yeah. Well, once you have a drink in your hand,
yeah,
you don't need a mask.
Yeah.
So that's how we get around that. Whew. I've been doing a lot of writing too in the last couple of weeks, honestly.
Like more journaling or like writing like a specific story?
A little of everything.
Okay.
So like I'll do like I'll write a poem and then I'll come into like just like writing a story or an epic like the Odyssey kind of thing.
I don't know if you mentioned this like on camera last time, but you said you were like writing an autobiography, I want to say.
I want to, but Jesus,
okay.
You know how hard it is.
I wouldn't know where to start, to be honest.
What's the hard part? It's what do you keep in and what do you take out and what's too much and what's not enough,
Yeah.
You want to tell a story or like you want to tell parts of you that made you who you are today. And there's a lot of that everywhere. You know what I mean? Like I go into the memory banks of my mind and I just like I'm like, oh, that was an important moment and so was that and this and that and
yeah.
Next thing you know, like you're thinking about how you would book this, and you're like, "Oh wow, it'd be like a Bible."
And you have to like try to make it sound like a story too, right? You don't want it to just be like you don't want it to be like, "Oh, I did this at this age and this at this." Like it's got to be some flowing story.
Yeah, you got to see it from the perspective of the person, of the autobiography. The person.
And you also want to have like the audience be engaged, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in the sense of like I said, like there's so many memories that were only memorable to me. If I put it down on paper, people are just like, okay, I do that every day, or I do that quite often, or it's not as memorable as you think. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's not cater. I don't write it to cater to anybody specifically. I just want to write it out to write it out. So, like, if a time ever comes where I had this conversation with a friend. If you lost your total memory, there's a book now that I could just read and be like, oh, that's me? That's sick. Well, it wouldn't influence who I am going forward. But at the same time, I'd be like, oh, this is who I was. I was a pretty decent, or I was a pretty piece of shit person. You know what I mean? It'd be like, oh, that's, wow, huh. From my own perspective, this is me. And I could close the book.
Have you ever read an autobiography? I don't think I've ever read anything.
Yeah, but they were like on historical figures, so in that sense, it's like not really like it was like an autobiography, but at the same time, it was really loose because like oh, this is the autobiography I found of him. So now it's an author writing or pretty much just trying to read
like someone else trying to do it in that person's
yeah. There's one I read about. It was do you know who Eric Thomas is?
No.
The motivational.
Oh
speaker.
yeah.
Bad as what is it? If you don't want it as bad as you want to breathe.
Yeah.
That guy. I read one of his books. So I guess technically it was an autobiography, but like again, he didn't like just do his whole life. He just did
up to that point.
Literally, the aspect of like when did transitions start being made? When did I start making transitions? So he chose a time in his life where like he was young.
Yeah.
And then like almost having a coming of age story. Like, oh, this is what it took for me to come of age. Boom.
Yeah. Or like try to show through like his struggle and how he got to the other side basically.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of being like, oh, my uncle, I mean he did in some cases where it was like, oh yeah, like someone took me in, someone took care of me. During that time I was thankful and then I started doing my thing and I started figuring it out kind of thing.
Yeah. I think the closest I've gotten is seeing like biopics But then again, those, since they're like more film oriented, they put in like additional stuff, or like, you know, they do stuff with the camera angle to make you get like some sense of like a direction of how things are going, like how they did with like the NWA movie or whatever.
Right.
So I don't think I've ever like seen like a straightforward like autobiography where it's just like not too much story, but just like the person's life.
Yeah.
So
really, like what you're really trying to portray when you do an autobiography, though, at least from what I know, is like, how did this person see life?
Yeah, like you want to get into the mind of that person.
Exactly. Like you don't care what they look like or what they. Yeah. You just want to know how do they function around this particular situation.
I guess like I know this is not like the most pleasant autobiography or whatever, but like technically Hitler has the Mein Kampf, right?
Right.
Which is, I don't know if that's like his autobiography, but it gives you a glimpse into his mind in a sense.
No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Like I don't know if they deem that as like his autobiography, but I know that's like, if you read that, you kind of would understand where his headspace.
The essence of what made Hitler.
Yeah.
Or if we do another, exactly.
It's just to kind of like, just for polarizing people, like you just understand where like their headspace is and how they got there.
Well, anything you write is always coming from something of a true essence of you. You know what I mean? Like you could be writing about like just your thought process of writing. Like what would I want to write if I had to write a story?
Yeah.
An adventure story that says something about you. Oh, you must like or are drawn to adventures. Doesn't mean you're adventurous, but that idea is very appealing to you.
Were you did you read a lot of books growing up, or were you?
I did. They were a lot of the same series, like.
Oh, okay. You're a big
when I was
person.
Super young, those Magic Treehouse.
Yeah, those were lit.
Fucking fire.
Yeah.
Because they taught. It was the thing of like.
They taught you like history, a little bit.
Let me throw you back in history real quick. Let me teach you something, but at the same time keep it entertaining.
Yeah.
There's that. There's the Percy Jackson series.
Yeah.
Which like just.
There's like 4 books, right, or 5?
5.
But okay.
There was the
Lightning Thief is first.
Lightning Thief, Sea of Monsters, and then there was one about the Titans, and then the last something.
Yeah.
There's 5. Yeah.
I read the series of Unfortunate Events. So I don't know why. Like in 4th grade, our teacher had us read the first one.
Is it good?
And I personally like it because I like things that are kind of more dark, but some people they're not really about that. So like.
Yeah, I mean, for me. Again, I always speak from just my perspective, so like no one can give me shit for my opinion. I mean, you can, I don't care. But this is just, I'm just speaking strictly for myself. But I do like darkness in books in a sense, but there's like even in shows too. It becomes a thing of like not too much, but like wow, it makes you really feel something. So wow, that must be a really strong like scene that they just depicted to you.
Yeah. I mean, I also don't just like sometimes just seeing like the happy stuff. I'm just like, that's not life. Or like there's people go through like a much worse stuff. So
yeah,
like,
of course.
I just don't like always seeing happy stuff. But I think with the Unfortunate Events, like I was young when I read it, obviously like in 4th grade or whatever. So I don't know what it'd be like if I went back and read it today. But I also was into like mystery and stuff like that. So it kind of tied in like some of that as well from what I can remember like reading of it. I know they tried to do like movies and like it didn't really work, but the books to me were polarizing enough for me to finish the series. So
yeah, for sure. Because I was watching the show because they had it on Netflix, the one with Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah,
I couldn't get past the 2nd episode.
Yeah, I've never seen the shows or like the movie, but the book to me at that time it was pretty good.
Yeah, maybe I just didn't give it a chance, but at the same time, I was just. Like,
I used to read a series called Jigsaw Jones, which is just like a mystery series because I don't know why I'm just so into mystery.
Like a Tom Hardy or the Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew kind of thing.
Yeah. And it'd just be like little like mysteries around their neighborhood and stuff. And I was like, this sounds so cool. I don't know why, but
there was one. Oh, what book was it called? It was like called Swindled or something like that.
I haven't heard of that one.
It was like the same thing, like just a bunch. It felt like a Codename Kids Next Door.
Oh yeah.
Where it was like, oh, these kids stumbled upon literally like this like it was baseball cards was like the theme around the thing.
Oh damn.
But it was like the most expensive baseball card you could have, or one of them. One kid pulled it from the pack, and then some like card collector. It was almost like, I want to say like if you know the plots of Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
Where like, oh, this is a very like collectible item. You know, Woody was a very collectible doll, and the guy just kind of snatches it.
Yeah.
Like he snatches it, but in the movie or the book, Swindled, he didn't. He just kind of conned them. You know, I'll give you $2 for it, kind of shit.
Like just rip the person off, yeah.
You've dealt with magic cards and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
It hasn't happened yet where someone has like taken advantage. I haven't seen it where people have taken advantage of like idiots.
Yeah, or
not idiots.
It's not,
I don't mean
just
idiots.
like
You
don't know.
People who don't know.
Yeah,
exactly. People who are just into it just to be into it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a shiny card. I'll give you $5 for it. Really, the card's worth 100. They're not idiots. I don't mean to say that. That was the first word that came to mind. But like, maybe just naive.
Yeah, or ignorant to like knowing like what
that realm of things. Yeah, for sure. But the same thing, and like then it became a thing of like they were becoming little fucking like thieves.
Yeah,
the little Ocean's 11 in there.
They're like preying on people who don't know or taking advantage of their like lack of knowledge.
Right, and like the whole story is like, oh, take back what was rightfully yours when you get screwed over.
Yeah,
right. And like again, it was teenagers. That like, just like literally like going through a heist.
Yeah,
It was just like, okay, like see, people can think this shit through. Like if you put enough effort and mindset into what you're working on, like you can be really good at it.
Yeah.
You can really like
hone in on that craft and be like the best.
I mean, that's where all my writings come from. Like when I like I said, I've been doing a lot of writing, and like a lot of mine comes from like just questioning things. Like okay, how do I portray this emotion? Mm-hmm. And like as I'm writing it down, I'm like, okay, would you feel this? Like okay, so like for instance, pain. Like what's the first thought that comes to your mind when you think of pain?
I don't know. My brain just goes to like injuries for some reason.
Yeah, I was gonna say memories, right? Yeah. Memories of things that remind
like
you
painful,
of pain. Like, oh, when I tore my ACL, or oh, when I fractured my spine, or oh, when I, got fucking sucker punched that one time. Your memories get associated with that. So, like, how can I paint that picture without it being dull? You know what I mean? Instead of being like, hey, I got slugged by some guy. Like, you turn it into maybe a poetic.
And instead of just like blatantly saying the thing, like you have to like be descriptive and like put them in that moment and like have them feel.
Right. Well, when you're describing like how you get punched by something or like I don't know why I'm going to violence right now, but I guess it's just an easy one. But like let's say like you're trying to like portray to someone, oh, he got punched so hard. Well, like how hard though?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So hard can be so.
It's relative.
So fast to each person. Yeah. Relativity. So how can I like kind of narrow their minds to understand like, I could kind of calculate that, or I could kind of visualize.
Yeah. Or even if you've never been through it, you could be like, oh, that would, if I would go through that, that'd be bad.
Right, and then you can, again, it gets so layered, right? Because then you can go, oh, he punched so hard that blank, so that means you're describing the punch. Or you could describe what it felt like when you got punched. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, like, it wasn't heavy, but it felt like a ton of bricks. You know what I mean? Something like that. Like now, there's so many ways you can go with it. Like I said, I can go with the mindset of the person getting punched, or I could go with the punch itself, or the mindset of the person doing the punching. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to like write. Like I don't know. I've always wanted to write like a huge storied book.
I got you.
Almost like a. Not like a Lord of the Rings, but like a world built around that, like same kind of world building, like that vast. You know what I mean? Like where it's like if you know the Lord of the Rings lore, like there's a whole lore to it, a whole culture of each, race or species or group that they have. Oh, there's a faction here, a faction there, and in those factions, there's this culture surrounding those factions. And, like the amount of world building in that story alone is just so crazy.
Yeah. And they went super deep with how like intricate the characters were and all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like it's always it fascinates me. And I'm gonna take this. I guess we're just talking about medias today, but it fascinates me how people can, and most times they get a source, right? Like, oh, this anime or this TV show is based off of this book or based off of this or history, but like to create especially like a visual representation without like any like source of like that must be crazy.
Like I always think about like I don't know if you've heard like how Facebook is now doing this weird like Metaverse thing or whatever, but like we've seen that concept so many times in like shows or like books and stuff, and I'm like, I just want to know how those people even got to that like that spot like 10-20 years ago when like none of this stuff was even here, right? It's like now it's different because there's like VR and you could see it like moving forward, but back then there was no VR, there was no smartphones, there's like nothing. How did they come up with that?
I mean, I could try and get into that mindset. and I'll do my best, at least from one perspective, right? This probably isn't the correct one. But again, maybe like just to open your mind to maybe like how it might be possible. But like the computer came out, right? And all it did was compute. So it's just a bunch of vacuum tubes and like literally it's just a bunch of binary just punching out, right? And that binary would like create a string of zeros and ones to create something out of it. Like, oh, this amount of zeros and ones
will equate to this function or something.
Spells out my name.
Yeah.
Or it spells out this process to do. Oh, it functions as a plus sign. You know. So, I mean, it had to start with the idea of like, how can I digitize things? Like, what does it mean to digitize and compute things?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, it's just a process of pretty much yes or no. One or two. 0 or 1, right? A or B. Nothing else. Just A or B. And then, so like, again, if I take this to a math concept, it's like 2 to the power of what? Yeah. Right? When you hear 64-bit, that's 2 to the 60. I believe it's 2 to the 64th. That might not be right, but But that's how binary is created, right? 2 to the first power is just 2, right?
Yeah.
So you only have 2 options, 0 or 1.
Yeah.
You know, and then as you keep going, the options keep just umbrellaing into this crazy thing.
So there's like endless possibilities.
Exactly. So I was going to say, it comes to the point of countless, limitless, infinities.
Yeah.
So someone had to be able to, like, if someone was able to create that, someone had to have the idea of, like, if I could compute things, can I compute life?
Yeah, like a different world or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And, like, what can I do? If I can program, literally make my computer compute this software that shows architecture differently, right? Shows a new background or on a different planet. The physics of this planet is different. Like, we could do that if we know those variables, right? And for the most part, a lot of, based on what our physics is on now, the history of our physics, it's doable. I mean, to the point where people are finding like constants that don't even need like suffixes of a value. You know what I mean? Like, you have to put a value to something. 24 doesn't mean anything until you put a value to it, right? What 24 what? Years, that's time. 24 meters, that's distance. 24, you know what I mean? Like, joules, that's energy. Yeah. Which is just another form of distance or time. So, until you put a value, the number is just that number. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, then it becomes a thing of like, okay, how do I turn that value, right? Because like you can write these numbers out, 24M. Everyone could come to that conclusion. What does the M mean for most people, depending on what field? Oh, M is meters or M is minutes. Like, so, I mean, like, again, I don't know what I'm talking about at this point, in the sense of like,
you're just trying to get in the mind space of how someone would like think about it like ahead of time, but like just like breaking it down like
literally you're just like micros. Oh, that's what I was getting to. So like defining algorithms, we're getting to that point. Or world building, right? Building literal worlds. That's what people do. How does this world make sense? Oh, it's because this physics now, like, we're taking Newtonian physics out of it, and I've applied my own physics here.
I think sometimes when it just comes to like stories and not like this metaverse thing, but maybe sometimes people are just like, I wish this was real. Like maybe that's where fantasy, they get it from, like a fantasy or like a dream, or like I wish I could do this or whatever. Yeah. Like, what would it be like if I was invisible for a day or something like crazy like that, right?
Imagination, man, it runs wild. And so with that, and I'm going back to my topic just for a little bit, but like, haven't you noticed that people who do build new worlds or like new book? I mean, when I say worlds, you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, like new.
It is a world.
It's like a space.
This book brings you into a new world. You can't enter it. Yeah. At least physically, but in your mind, you can.
You can put yourself there. Yeah.
You can be the cameraman watching everything unfurl. You can associate yourself to one of the characters. You can be both. You're like, oh, this, like, what I have done. What, like, let's go to One Piece for one second. Or Naruto. You're Naruto. As he does each action and as everything occurs, you could put yourself in each person's shoes.
Like, would I do this or not?
Yeah, would I have done what Naruto would have done? Would I have done what Sasuke would have done in that instance? Oh, I would have thought it differently. Now you've just created your own character in that. Like,
the space.
Just in that instance, though, because, like...
for that moment or scenario.
Unless your actions match up with the actions portrayed in the show.
You're not going to see...
You wouldn't know anything else after that. You're like, oh, I would have thought it differently here. Okay, well, now you've created a whole new timeline.
Yeah.
So now we don't know what's going to happen here because you just said something different. Like, again, you can keep doing that, like, little, like, oh, well, if I said this, I know Choji would have thought this.
Yeah.
And then
you could try and figure it out.
You could try and come to conclusions, but you'll never truly know. It's like mathematical limits, if you remember those back in high school, where, like, it approaches 5.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll never get to 5.
Yeah.
Unless, if it's an outlier, not outlier, asymptote, right? If it's unapproachable, we can only just get as close as we can to it.
Yeah, without hitting the actual.
Before you like close your eyes, and next thing you know, it goes past.
Yeah.
Like literally, just right at that point where it's 5.00000.
You basically jump over it, yeah.
5 infinite zeros, right? There's no tail end to it either way, or 4.9 to infinity of the 9s. You'll never get to that 5. You'll never truly know, but you can always make those assumptions of like, oh, if I knew truly his mindset, this is, and even then, and then now this becomes a statistics thing, right? Like, you can go down to the fact of like, all right, I know this person this well. Based on that, I can tell these are the 3 options he would take. So now it becomes a probability thing.
Yeah.
The likelihood he would take option 2 based on who he is, pretty likely. But there's like a 25% chance he'd take option 3. And there's like a 10% chance he'd take option
just based
1.
on like their past, like whatever they did in the past or their mannerisms or whatever.
You're pretty much just observing people like limitlessly.
Just to go back to like some of the reading stuff though, did you have any books like either from like school, like mainly from school, but like at any point that you really enjoyed or like you were like you really wanted to read?
Not at the time that we read them.
Okay.
It was more of like a looking back on it.
You were like, oh, those were kind of cool.
Yeah, which was weird because like during school I didn't read. I mean, I loved reading. I just didn't like reading things I didn't want to read.
Yeah, like being forced to read something instead of
exactly.
finding it like naturally or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But there was a book. There was a few that we had that I thought were really good. But like the Odyssey was a really good one at the time. Though I like wasn't like completely like
into the Greek
sold
stuff
on it. I loved the mythology, but I was like, who cares about this one man?
Yeah.
I was like, what makes him? And then like it became a thing of like as we were told about what was happening, because English is an interesting subject in and of itself. We read literature and then we deduce the authors, perhaps, and I say perhaps because we don't know
exactly what they wanted to get out of it. But like
getting into the mind space of an author, like as you write things, everything matters.
Yeah.
Even like the littlest details. Like I used to be. And a lot of people did, where they're like, why the fuck does it matter if the sky is blue? Like, he put that in there for a reason.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just assume the sky is blue. So he had to make it explicit enough for you to be like, oh, I have to. And it might not be a significant thing, but enough to be like, oh, hey. Like, he's just, like, that's how much detail he's paying attention to.
Or I think of it in a sense like they try to put enough detail so you can kind of figure out like where they're coming from or look at it from their lens instead of looking at it from your own lens or a different lens. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, it forces you to be like
tunnel
it can't be at nighttime because he said the sky was blue. And the sky's only blue during the daytime, so it had to be during the daytime.
Yeah.
Like I liked a lot of the exercises I had to do with a lot of the books we read.
Yeah.
Like there was To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, but that was in like 7th grade or something.
Yeah, that was middle school. But we had to do an assignment for it, which we had to build the neighborhood.
Oh, damn.
Of the book. So like where each house would be located based on the context of the book.
That's crazy.
It was a lot of fun. It really was because like you're like literally just like at least for me it's like a scavenger hunt. You're like, I remember them talking about Boo Radley's house in pages this one, chapter 6, chapter 3. Yeah. So based on that, based on the path that he was walking that day, based on the path of the main character, Scout, and how she describes her neighborhood as she goes to from point A to B, like you're like, oh, like wow, I could start to imagine how it would look like. Yeah, how this neighborhood would be.
I think we did something similar, but I don't know what the book was called. It had to do with like a pearl, and we had to build like a box.
The Pearl by John Steinbeck.
Yeah, and then we had to like build the like wherever we thought it would look like. And it was pretty cool. those are like some traded things. I think for some reason the books I read in middle school, it seemed like they were ahead of their time, or like when I tell people that I read them at that age, they're like, those are kind of weird to be reading at those ages, because I read like To Kill a Mockingbird or like Tom Sawyer, like
Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah. The Outsiders.
The Outsiders. I love The Outsiders.
And I was like, honestly, I thought those books were pretty cool. Like, I know like there's controversy with To Kill a Mockingbird, but I honestly thought it was fine to read at that age.
Did you ever read The Giver?
No, but I've heard that's a good book.
It's a weird one. Because, like, again, hindsight, all these books I read at the time, I was like, but I read them. I retained the information from them. But it just never had, like, an impact on me at the time. Now, looking at it today, I'm like, holy moly, like, the amount of layers of just, like, symbolism and storytelling and plot and, like, relativism towards the real world. It's like, wow, these books are very sophisticated.
And you know, like, the authors did a good job because you still remember the story like years later. So it's not like something you just read and you forgot about. Like, you remember the story, you remember the characters, or like you remember specific scenes. Or
that's the thing about books, though, is like with movies, everyone's always drawn to the action because that's the most that's going on, right? Literally everything's happening, and your brain, I think, is and this is just I guess a suggestion? No. A guess. It's definitely a guess. But, like, your brain is so focused on things that move a lot, right? That, like, action scenes are always, like, what takes you in movies.
Yeah, they're the most captivating, or you're just looking for all the information.
There's a lot of colors happening and a lot of, like, fast movements, and your eyes are trying to keep up, and it's trying to make sense of it in an exciting way where you're like...
It kind of builds that adrenaline.
Or, like, for animes, when they do, like, the fight scenes, sometimes it's literally, like, in Dragon Ball, it's literally just, like, two flashes of light. Just across the screen.
But it's so intense that you're so, like, captivated by it.
I was going to say, and they build the music to swell up.
I think the music's a big part of that.
And it forces you to imagine the fight.
Yeah, and how intense it would be if you were there.
Instead of drawing every action of it and then, not ruining, but, like...
being too detailed, like, over-detailed.
Yeah, like, literally just, like... straight lining your imagination, because you can't imagine anything that your eyes are already seeing. So, like, we're gonna make it clashes, or like we'll make it instances where it's like they were here.
You see glimpses.
Literally, close your eyes and they're already like clash, like at each other's throats. Like, your brain goes through that imagination scenario. Like, wow, the amount of strength it must have taken, in this fantasy world. For them to push off the ground. Going full velocity, and they're meeting each other with the same amount of strength.
And then they'll show like scenes of them like panting, or like some marks on them that they got like beat up or stuff like that. So you kind of see how intense it. Man,
I feel like today we were supposed to be talking about English, but it really just seems like we're just talking about the details. Like,
I mean, we're still talking about like reading and like writing and stuff.
But that's the thing, is like English, right, and writing, reading, that all translates to medias. Beyond that, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not reading, and you don't have to read books.
It could be anything. You can read an article.
As long as your eyes are like continually like trying to read things.
Even reading like a movie poster or something, it's still like you're analyzing a piece of media.
100%. And that's the whole point. The thing with books that I like about it is that you have to, like, movies take away some part of that imagination because you're viewing a lot of things. Angelina Jolie is portrayed as this character. You know what I mean? You don't have this original image of a woman anymore because Angelina Jolie now playing that role.
You
know what I mean? Or like same for like the Hulk, right? I forget who that guy is.
I forget who it is.
Mark Ruffalo, right? Every time you think of the Hulk, if you've only seen Marvel movies, you'll just think of Mark Ruffalo Hulk. You know what I mean? Or they had an Edward Norton Hulk. But that was but like based on the comics, like you're like, I don't see, this guy doesn't look like Mark Ruffalo. In the duality of things, I could keep those two identities separate. You know what I mean? But at some point too, sometimes like it becomes so fully associated. Like Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds. Like they kind of
just like Harry Potter. Or...
exactly. Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe. Now you can't like it's hard to imagine a Harry Potter without thinking of Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, or it's hard to see Daniel Radcliffe in another movie, and like it makes it hard to be that person.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's like that 70s show at least. Or what's no, that's not as good of a one. There's one I had.
I know it happens a lot with like villain characters where like you really want to hate them. So if you see them in another movie where they're not a villain, it throws you off.
Oh yeah.
You're just like, man, I want to hate this person, but you can't.
That's the thing too. Is like it's hard to be a hero in one movie, and then like a supervillain in the other.
Yeah.
Like because you'll see actors who play that like anti-hero role where like their spectrum is like very wide one way, and then they could still pull back some.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like again, Ryan Reynolds, he's Green Lantern, who's superhero.
Yeah.
But then he's also Deadpool, who's like super anti-hero.
Yeah.
But he can't quite be a villain, but he could have those tendencies. You know what I mean? Same thing with like Harley Quinn. She could never be, in my opinion, and this would be wrong because they'll probably do it eventually. But she could never be like a superhero.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
She could do like the Suicide Squad thing.
Exactly. She could be a very good anti-hero on the better side of anti-hero.
Yeah.
But she could be full spectrum villain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it's hard to develop some like an actor or a role that can do like a full spectrum.
But like going back to your point with like when you're reading, you kind of have to do like half the work yourself too. Whereas in a movie, I feel like you're not thinking as much. Some people are like, depending on what movie you're watching, you're trying to think of what's going to happen next or why something happened.
Yeah.
But for the most part, when you're reading, it's like 50% what the writer wrote, and then the other 50 is your imagination and you really being in that moment.
100%. That's the beauty of writings over like
visuals.
Stuff. Yeah. Because don't get me wrong, I love both.
Yeah.
Tremendously. It's just the amount of how much imagination do you want your audience to have in this?
Yeah.
You know, because everyone's gonna look. Everyone who reads the same book is gonna have a different image of the characters.
And it's very hard for like people to watch a movie and both come out with a different like outlook on it. It happens sometimes, but it happens way more in reading, where you can read two things and someone's like, "Oh, I thought the author wanted to be like this," and then someone's like, "Oh no, that's not how I looked at it at all."
Or like when they do the comparisons to like, "Oh, I could imagine this character. I could imagine." Tom Holland playing this character. Oh, really? I was thinking more Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's always interesting when like books become movies. Like sometimes whatever they put on the movie is like so different from what you imagined when you were reading the book.
Yeah. Well, that's where a lot of the problems run into in that translation of things is you'll never have everybody on board.
Yeah.
Because someone will be like, I can't see that actor playing this role.
Yeah.
In the book that I've cherished.
Plus, everyone has their own interpretation of how the book went, too. So that's why you'll never be able to please every single person.
And then also, it's so hard to capture the amount of... Like, and I'm not that guy to be like, oh, books are way better than movies.
Yeah,
I love books equally as much. But, like, it's just, again, a matter of, like, how much imagination do I want to dive into?
Yeah.
Oh, as much as I want, I'm going to go book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, do I care about the creativity, imagination side of things on that like micro scale? Because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
No? All right, then I want to go movie because I'm watching the movie for something bigger than like who's playing the roles.
I wonder if like back when silent films were like a thing, if they probably did have like the audience have more imagination when viewing. Like you're trying to think of like what did that person say that made this person like angry or like whatever.
Well, if you think about the OG silent films, where they like had like, they literally had a text bubble or text box, like they didn't even say. I mean, some of them did say words, but literally they were just exclamations. Like, I could only just think of one burning in my head, and that's just like the lady on the railroad tracks scene, or like lady getting caught in the sawmill scene, that rescuing scene, and like she's screaming, and then it'll literally pan to like a letter card.
They do the letter cards on
like she's screaming, and you're like, oh yeah. I mean, I could have already imagined that, but now
it's like confirmed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whenever I think of silent films, I just think of like Charlie Chaplin and just all the fucking running around and shit.
That's always my first thought too. Is the damn mustache with the bullet with the what is it, bolo hat?
I don't know, but it was a hat for sure. Yeah, and then he had like a little suit getup thing. Yeah.
Fun fact about Charlie Chaplin: he once did a lookalike contest of him and lost.
What the fuck?
Yeah. How do you lose a lookalike contest of you?
I mean, I guess the lookalike was hella good.
Yeah, right?
That's kind of scary, though. Someone could just, like, steal your identity. That's wild. Yeah. Have you been reading any new books, or no?
So, weirdly enough, I have a Bible. Not claiming religion or anything like that. Yeah. I read it more for, like, education. Like, I have a Christian Bible series, and then I have a Catholic Bible. Okay. And I read both to see
like the differences,
comparisons, similarities. Very similar, not many differences. And then I'll read like other texts. Like I've tried to read like an English translated version of the Quran. Oh, okay. Stuff like that. So I've been into like religious texts, but at the same time, like I've been taking I just started taking a step back from it. Okay. Just because like you get burned out sometimes.
Yeah, it's too much.
Reading for pleasure wise, like besides like comic books and which is again another visual, but I haven't read anything like of a book, I guess, lately. Passages and like stories, like I'll read a bunch of myth stories. Yeah. I'll read a bunch of like, I guess things that are Wikipedia-able, you know what I mean? Yeah. In the sense of like, not like a whole book, but like pieces and parts of like science lectures or physics lectures or math lectures or history, you know? Yeah. Or I'll do audiobooks or like
where you can like listen to it and just like chill. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes I just like want to chill out, close my eyes, because like when I don't use my eyes, I feel like I could imagine like much better. Yeah. All you do is just like you're literally just like taking the words. And then it's like, what does that word pop up? What did that phrase pop up in my head? All right, now it's starting to paint a picture. You know? Yeah,
for sure. And especially like if you're in like a quiet place or whatever, and you just have like the right setting, like it helps you imagine things a lot more too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, just like when you find that peace of mind where you're just like able to like almost like an astral projection like thing. You know what I mean? Where you're like you're so in tune with yourself. You're like I can like escape my body. Yeah. For a second.
Like you're like you could leave reality in a sense for a bit. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's weird because I feel like when I was younger, I used to read a lot more like books about like different worlds or like random stuff like that. But then as I got older, I started reading like self-help books more, kind of like around high school and college.
I think I did that too. I went through one self-help book, and I realized that they were all the same.
Yeah, I was like, I kind of don't want to read those anymore. But I might pick up this book. I'm pretty sure like you've heard of it. It's pretty like famous. But I want to read what is it called? It's Art of War. Oh, I haven't read that.
Really? It's a really good book. I keep one on. It's small, like 50 pages. Yeah, so I keep it on me like most of the time. It's just good to look through. Yeah. It's like look at the title in and of itself. Yeah. The Art of War. So like again, according to the author, which was Sun Tzu, who was a general in China. Yeah. I don't remember which dynasty. Either way, do they have dynasties? They have dynasties there too, right?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, because I mix up a lot of Asian culture because they're very similar, they have like such
intricacies that are different.
Yeah, that make them that unique. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's such small detail, but it goes so long. It goes such a long way. Yeah. But yeah, Sun Tzu, and literally he looks at art, or he looks at war as an art form, right? Like, oh yeah, like yes, there's pros and cons, there's costs and benefits, and there's very big consequences that come to it. But that's the art of war. That comes with the art of war. Like
it's also kind of like when you watch like an MMA fighter or a boxer. There's also like an art to like fighting, even though like to some people it just looks like two people beating each other up. But there's like a strategy or like an art or a way someone moves is like different. So
well, I feel like art is just like fully immersing yourself into what that topic is. Yeah. Right. Everything's an art form. You looking up how to like. You're the process of which you do something. That's art, right? The process of how I write my shit in here. Yeah. To me, because
there's no like exact structure for like not like every single person does it the exact same way.
Yeah. Well, think about it like this in this comparison, right? How I write my book is like how an artist would paint a huge mural, right? So like yeah, you get the big, or like depending on the artist on how you want to go about it. Do I want to work on like what's my focal point first? Oh, it's the characters, so I got to draw them first and everything else around them, or is it the whole thing as a scene and they just happen to be in that? You know what I mean? Like
just the way they want to go about it.
Yeah. Oh, I want to put more attention to detail to the characters because they are the most important thing in this page or this. In this image I'm drawing, they are the most important subject of this matter, instead of the whole thing as a whole. But as I build outward and I keep taking a step back, they are now becoming a part of the whole. It just happens to be more focused on that.
Yeah.
You know, same with writing for me as an art form. Like what is my topic of subject, right? Oh, all right, the topic is pain. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I want pain to be physical or emotional? Do I want it to be X or Y? You know, and then just keep going through that, like layer of questioning towards, you know, details. Again, I guess it just comes down to details.
Yeah, and I know like a lot of times when people talk about art, everyone just thinks of like painting or drawing or like stuff like that. But like even things like rock climbing, like the way you approach like a specific like V5 or something, like that's still an art in itself. Because you're gonna do it different from like your cousin or like someone else, right?
Everyone's a different like climbing. I've been talking about it in such like a different level of like such a like Zen level.
Yeah.
Because it's. I mean, like they call them problems, right?
Yeah,
so, like,
you're faced with a challenge. You got to like figure out how you're gonna get to the top or whatever.
Exactly. Like the whole like symbolism behind climb, like the idea for me behind climbing is so just prevalent. Literally, they call them a problem. So like when you finish that route, you finish the problem. Mm-hmm. You literally completed that problem. You solved it. And like in the same mindset, once you've solved that problem, you could solve it again.
Yeah.
And if you like take too many days off and you forget, like the muscle memory is there to remember, but like you might not get it.
And you can solve it in different ways. Like you can solve it one way, and then the next time do it a different way, and one time maybe do like a little bit of both or whatever.
Yeah, and it caters to how you've built yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Some people are super fucking strong, but super heavy because they just carry a lot of mass on them. All right. Well, you got to be able to have a better approach to this wall. You're not gonna be able to make those heavy, fast moves, at least for a long time.
You're not gonna be as agile as like smaller people.
Right. And then that's another thing. Like you'll get the small people who are kind of thin, but they're also super flexible.
Yeah.
Or like they just are very strong, but just they don't show it. Like physically, like expressively. So in that sense, like they can do a one-handed pull-up, whereas like the 220-pound guy who could bench 500 pounds can't. You know. So caters to how you want to go about it, and like again, same with the difficulty level. Like no one, and this is what I love about the gym, and specifically rock climbing gyms, is no one gives a fuck if you fall or not. No one like watches you climb and like goes, oh yeah, fuck, he fell, yeah, he's bad. No. They literally, I mean, for me at least, and for the people that I've known in my climbing community, though, if they're watching you climb, it's to see how you're figuring out the problem.
Yeah.
Because maybe they haven't gone as far as you. Or maybe they didn't think that way that you did. So then now you have a new perspective on the wall.
We're just trying to see how other people are approaching that problem, or like, even if it's like someone who's like a beginner, you want to see like, oh, how would someone who's like fresh into this look at this?
Oh, for sure. And then it becomes another, like the next step of like collaboration. Yeah. Because like then, like if everyone's struggling on this V6 or V5, you know, but like people are like,
getting
now
somewhere,
it's just like 4 bodies are on there, so now you're not there exhausting yourself. Like now I could take a break and watch someone else try. Oh, that didn't work for him. What if I tweaked his methodology, or maybe I just scrap it all together and I try something completely different? Yeah. You know, there's so much learning you can do throughout everything you do in your life, even on the smallest things, just depending on how you shape your mindset to it.
Yeah. And like kind of tying this back to like the reading stuff before, there's like so much you could learn from just like reading, and it changes. I feel like what I didn't notice is it changed me without me even realizing it. Like I know people say if you read you get better vocabulary or like your writing improves, but like beyond just that, like just the way you think about things, or like maybe it might be like the compassion or empathy you have for someone changes totally based on something you read.
Oh dude, for sure. And I used to be so against like reading fictional books at a certain point. Like I used to be all fiction, and then at a certain point it just became all logic. and like all fact and all
Yeah.
non-fiction stuff. And now I've gotten to that point of nice blend where I do immerse myself in realism and like reality of our world's physical properties. You know, the properties that make our world literally of matter. And then also diving into like the detailed ways of like expanding that idea of reality, turning into like a surreality, like surrealism, but also portraying the intricacies of our world, right? So like when people take things to like a sci-fi level, like what are they trying to show you? You know what I mean? Like there's different species. We could take that to our level of just race. You know, they don't. In my case, race doesn't exist, but this is how it's being portrayed in our world. Almost like, you know, we are two different species. We are from two different planets, but we're not. You know what I mean? So like how it's just interesting. How would two different worlds
collide?
Interact?
Yeah,
collide. Exactly.
It's kind of like that movie Avatar, not that last name, the other one. The blue people.
The blue people.
Sorry, I just have to
say it.
But yeah,
Michael Bay. Wasn't it Michael Bay? There was a lot of explosions and a lot of like sound effects or special effects. I want to say that was a Michael Bay film. But keep going.
But yeah, like just like how those two like the species or whatever, like how like people interact. It's just like it's like a unique topic, and it's like very relevant. Like how do you react with like interact with someone of the opposite gender, or how do you interact with someone like older than you or younger than you? Like in a sense, it's also like you're interacting with a totally different species because their mind is in a totally different place than your mind is.
Oh, for sure. Nothing makes sense in these two worlds.
Yeah.
You know, so how can we start to make them like make sense to each other?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do we share cultures without there being like I know.
Just more of like
this is fact. No, this is fact. Someone has to drop that egotistical side of them
and just be willing to listen.
Yeah, and be willing to be like, I could see how that might make sense.
Yeah.
Or please explain to me further in detail how this would make sense to me because it still doesn't make sense to me yet.
Yeah.
Instead of just denying it upright or exploiting it upright.
Yeah, try to actually like listen and see like where they're coming from, or like okay, like I don't think this way, but let me see like what got them to think this way, or like maybe like they had something happen to them like earlier in their life, and that's why they began thinking like this.
Right. So like let's take it back to like Avatar again, right? The story being told was was exactly that instance of like how can I read their culture? Like what path does humanity have to take to access this culture? And one side chose for exploitation, right? The military forces that were just
they wanted to use the
and we don't give a fuck what you think if you don't comply. But there was always that piece, like that ambassadorial side.
Yeah, like the human side.
Like how can we as humans like interact with these people to let them know that
we care, or like we're there for them.
Yeah, like we want this to be a mutual benefit to us. Is there any way that
we both want to be able to survive on this planet?
Like let me learn your ways to understand what you guys have understood.
Yeah.
So I know that when I do take the actions that I do take, they're just and right kind of thing. You know, it was like it's that. I mean, there's so many layers of like, just deeper plot devices inside of that whole movie.
Yeah, and like even with like specific characters, like character development, and like it's like interesting to see how a character starts off like a book or like a movie, and then by the end to see like where they're at and like what like along the way got them there.
Yeah, it's interesting how like genres can be broken down, or I guess like divided or into bigger bubbles. You know what I mean? Like you could keep bringing it down into smaller ones. Like this is an adventure in a fantasy land. That's a guy died and now it is in a real life or a different life. Boom, that's one. But you can take it back the other way
and see like which ones relate to each other. Yeah.
Like what's the main thing they're trying to get through here? So like in the Odyssey, to me, the way I saw it was all about love. Right? This dude gets stranded on an island. Yeah. Literally smited by God. You know, Poseidon. Yeah. After this treacherous war, after this Trojan War based on just a woman, a special woman because she was the daughter of Zeus and like she was very pretty, the most beautiful woman in the world or their world.
Yeah.
And so people went to war for them. A guy who literally was just trying to help a homie literally gets smited by Poseidon for choosing the wrong side or fighting for the wrong side in Poseidon's eyes. Gets stranded on an island with his men and then has to go through like death-defying, like hell-raising obstacles to get back home. You know what I mean? And it was to win his kingdom back, to win his status back. But like that was like, this is how I have compartmentalized it. But like a guy of that stature, who is that great, who can fight a war, live through it, and still be fine, still be chilling, like that's a great man.
Mm-hmm.
Like he could create great status anywhere he goes. So why does he go back? You know what I mean? Like what was that reason? And that became like to me what the biggest thing of the Odyssey was like what was his drive for him to go such great lengths
to go back? Yeah,
to fight Cyclopses, to defy literal gods, to fight off suitors.
Yeah, or whatever the singing. I forget.
The sirens. Yeah, he had to tie himself down to his ship.
Yeah.
Just to get through, so he wouldn't like fall into that spell of the sirens' calls. Like, what compels a man
to do all
to go
this?
that far when he could just like, if he
just
wanted
chill.
to, he could start somewhere new and be like, I'll just turn this into a new kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, what was that thing that called him back? If he can have the same, literally everything here, he can have where he's at now. Like, what's that one variable?
Yeah, like what's the piece that he's missing to fill that void? Or whatever?
That's literally like, I could have all of it, but it still wouldn't be
the same.
Me as, exactly. And I was like, it had to be love. Like, it just had to be. That was the only thing. Like, he literally came back, and he didn't come back and go, I'm king. He went, no, I'm gonna fucking just like show you why this woman is
mine.
Belongs to me. Yeah. Like why she is my like soulmate, eternal lover, whatever you want to call it. Well, let me show you why. I'm not, and that's what he did, right? He didn't come back to his land and then go, I'm back, I'm here, like fuck everybody else. He went, no, like it ain't about that. I gotta put these suitors in their place first, and then I'll come back. So that's what he did. That's how and when you break it down to things like that, there's only so few topics that people talk about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then like, it's interesting to see like you never thought like a certain book is related to another book, but once you start going backwards instead of breaking it down into little things, like going back to seeing like what categories overall they all are at, or like what are the messages in these like books. Interesting to see which ones kind of have similarities.
Oh, for sure, a lot of them, right? Like dystopic ones deal with power. Like power struggles and like how it's power in order. I feel like that's what a lot of dystopias teach you about. Is like, like the powerful get this. And with that they can create this new system of caste, social status.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like those like the dystopian ones, how like power affects someone, or like how it like takes over them completely in a way. Yeah,
Lord of the Rings did it literally like in one character, and that was the Gremlin dudes. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know you're talking.
I can't think of his name for the life of me. But once he got that power, once he got that ring, when he first got it, or like, because he was also, I want to say he was also a hobbit or hobbit-esque creature, and he also had that same goal, I believe. Again, this could be very wrong, but he was like, I'm gonna go take this ring back where I found it, and then he realized how much power was that ring carried, and it literally consumed him. And he became a literal gremlin-looking creature, and that was like the greed of power, right there and then and there, just that whole little arc within that movie was just literally about power. Like what would you do for power? Like if all you wanted was power, if you got the taste of like this overwhelming, limitless power, like what lengths would you go? And that gremlin showed you. I would literally bite a person's finger off. I would literally jump into lava to grab to like make sure the ring is safe, even though I die. That's how much power is in this ring. You know what I mean? Enough to know my life ain't worth shit, according to that guy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's so many interesting concepts and like different forms of media. Just always interesting to dive in and like dissect them in a sense.
Yeah. You know, I've noticed a lot of world building is always based. They try to make it as close to our reality as possible.
I think it's just so people don't think it's too far-fetched. Like,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's something that we have to be able to like
conceptualize,
and be like, I could see how that might work.
Yeah. If it's too far out there, then people are like, eh.
And then when it becomes a thing, like in all like any magic-based world built world, right? They have to like incorporate a reason to why they do and we don't. Oh, the reason why they're allowed to use magic is because their world is full of mana, or their body systems produce mana.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Some form of magical source.
Or there's just something different in their ecosystem or whatever.
Right. Their atmosphere has this new element in it, and it produces these extraordinary powers in people. Right? So, like, they try to, like, make it be like, oh, this is why this world doesn't exist yet. Until we find this element that allows this in our atmosphere. Or until...
Like, we're missing this. Like, yeah.
Exactly. And then people, like, they start to... It's really interesting. But they'll just get closer and closer to that limit. Like, when will we reach that limit of fantasy becomes reality?
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, we're getting closer.
Or, like, when things that were impossible at one point start becoming possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, my co-host, or my other host, because you're at this point, you're a host too now. Our other host, fucking Waffles, came up with a really interesting question that's still, like, I perplex to this day. And it's like, if technology got so advanced that it looked like magic, can we just consider that magic?
Yeah.
It's like, well, if people don't know how it functions,
then yeah.
But technically you, it's not, but to them it is.
Yeah.
You know, until you disclose that information on that highly advanced technology,
just like,
it's magical because it's beyond your realm of reality.
It's just like same thing with like card tricks or whatever. Like, to the person doing them, it's not magic, but to someone who like can't see the sleight of hand or they can't see like the setup or whatever, they're like, "What the heck happened? I can't explain it."
Right.
So it's magic to them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you'd be able to teach it to me.
Yeah.
But I will never be able to like
fully comprehend, or at least when I first saw it, you didn't know how.
Right. Unless, like you said, that's how people get from point A to B, right? They go, I'm at A and B is over here. And let's see how far I can get. Okay, from the perspective of A, I can only get X distance. So can I keep going? Is there a way to keep going around this X obstacle? No, then I'll have to find somewhere else to start.
Yeah. To
help me keep filling those gaps until we reach those limits, right? Like on a graph, here is like where we are at in VR, and here is like Sword Art Online.
Yeah. Right? We're like slowly getting closer.
We're slowly getting there. We're like, oh, now we can start. Now it's meta. Right?
Yeah.
With Facebook. Boom. We just got past that limit. And then in this, like now someone has created a story where it's real. Or it's more real, I guess. You know, boom, we're here. You know, and sooner or later those limits reach.
Yeah.
Until that asymptote is no longer an asymptote.
Yeah, there's like SAO or like Ready Player One.
Exactly. And you're like, oh wow, it's starting to look more real.
Yeah.
Like it looks like those connections are starting to be made.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, the idea is there, right? Of like, so we do need a headset for visual. We do need like
something for your brain to be in the...
That's the next step of it. Is like, how do I access the brain? How do I... Because like, okay, a little tangent on this topic, but I saw this quote that was very subtle, but it was like really weird. It was like, oh, when you sleep, your body's just logging off. So where does the mind go though?
Yeah.
That question wasn't added. I added that question in there. But really, where does the mind go when the body sleeps? You know?
Never know, yeah.
You don't know because, like, your eyes are what you used to see. So, like, what is your mind?
Yeah.
It's just empty. I mean, not empty.
Yeah, but obviously it's, like, performing functions because your heart's still going and, like, you're still breathing. Like,
things are still autonomous. Like,
yeah.
Where does your mind go? Like,
it's kind of like,
in the body of yours. Like, it's still trapped there. Because it can go as far as you want it to go in this realm of dream, which is what a dream is, right? Your mind leaving your body, but still performing the functions to keep your body still there. But why? You know what I mean? Like, why does your... I'm getting off topic. I'm going on a tangent at this point, so let me stay on the tangent that I had already set. How, if we were to build this VR world, how do we replicate that sleep state and then pretty much manipulate the dreams that we have? That's pretty much what it is.
It's like a transfer kind of your mind into like a different realm or like...
It really is. Like, so, and the brain is literally just little electrical sparks, just synapses just firing off.
Yeah.
So how can I wire those? Like, this may be the concept, but how can I wire those to make this guy visualize what he's seeing when he's outside of his body? And then how can I get him to meet someone in Boulder or, you know, like Colorado or like in this fantasy world too? Like, let's take it to a new dimension. So like this realm, how do I take them to this realm and meet other people going through the same experience? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there has to be a server there. See, this is like literal world building now. Like, there has to be a server that creates something that holds the capacity for that, right? Oh, now I need all this data to store I need the data to store the shape of this, the dimension of it, and if like I really want to get to that level of VR, like the feel of it, oh, this feels like mahogany. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And you'd also need like a server to store the information of each person, so that way like when they go into that world, it already remembers who it is.
Yeah.
Right?
So I mean, it comes down to really just data storage and processing power when it comes to something like that.
Yeah.
Right. How it comes down to the big three components: RAM, right? Like quick access to memory, fucking processing power, like how long it takes for this to all process. Like, if I open my eyes and the virtual world is still buffering, like, you're not good. Yeah. You'd be like, all right, I'm logging off. Like, fuck this, GTA 5 loading screen all over again. And then you have to have the storage to be able to load that all up.
Yeah, so and have like new people join all the time and all this, and new updates, and you want to change the color of something or whatever.
Yeah, and I've been playing a game on my phone that deals with like that concept outside of virtual reality though. Mm-hmm. But like literally, like everybody's in a server, right? And there's many servers. I think they're at like 1,600 now. Mm-hmm. And each server carries around. I mean, and most games do this when they have like what is it? MMO, like what is it? Mass multiplayer
online.
You know what people say when MMO, but I just don't know the actual acronym it stands for.
Yeah.
But like literally, it's just a mass of people playing together. Yeah. Online. So yeah, MMO. That's how I have to like
break it down.
My way and figure out the acronym. But yeah, MMO, right? A lot of places, a lot of games have already developed literally the concept of how they would store servers up and everything. Like, oh, we'll make one server. Oh, okay, we hit capacity on people, and now like the efficiency of processing is gone. Well, let's just create another server. Let's just create like literally another external device and plug that in, and now these people could transfer now there's a whole nother one. Oh man, now we've almost hit capacity again. Another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. Keep going until we don't need them anymore.
Or be maxed out.
Exactly. So now it just becomes, how can I transfer the mindscape into there? And then everybody else's who wants to join into that mindscape into one server visually. So I think we're getting there.
It's going to take a while, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, for sure. It's going to take a while too, based on like testing. What is it? Standards of testing.
Yeah, and
right, because like you could fuck a brain up all day long, and you'd probably be really like get way closer to your goal. But is that unethical.
Logic? Yeah,
that's so super unethical.
I know. There's like an anime I saw like semi recently. It's called like Psychopaths, but this is just like the anime is not based around like VR or like AR or anything. But like there's one of the characters like in the morning when she wakes up, she just sets her room to a random location. And it just makes her room look like that. Yeah. Like, it has nothing to do with anything. Like, it's not relevant to anything. But it's just more like, just for her to get, like, mental peace. She's like, oh, I want it to be like I'm in nature. And then she'll just chill in her room or whatever. I feel like that we could get closer to something like that, where you could like just change the environment around you.
It had to be an empty room, but yeah, for now,
it'd be cool.
Or like when people are like I guess Dragon Ball, or no, what's a like when they go through like a training montage and they're literally able to have literally like a simulator. That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
Literally like here, I'll simulate the bad guy you're fighting.
Yeah.
So you could keep practicing.
Like training, yeah.
Yeah.
I also think of like shows like Code Lyoko, where like you go into like a portal or whatever, or like Danny Phantom, where he's like goes into the ghost portal and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Pretty interesting, but
I mean, that's the beauty of writing and reading, man. In English, just not even English, but just literature in general. It's just how vast is people's imaginations.
Yeah.
Right. You get mad at a lot of like shows for like a lot of like isekais, right? Or like, MMO based animes. You get mad at them because they're just copying SAO.
Yeah, but they're
sure they are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like changing just one slight variable in that thing could create a whole different timeline. You know what I mean? Oh, the character has this complex about him. Instead of being Kirito, this guy, he's everything Kirito is except, he's overly cautious. Or except, he fucking has no sense of direction.
It's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, like with the Naruto thing, where you might think of like, oh, I would have done this or I would have done that. Some of these shows, even though they look like they're copying other shows, to give you that like, oh, this is what it would have looked like if this person might have done this, or like this person had like a different personality or something.
Yeah, you literally just play the game of what ifs.
Yeah.
I think that's how like stories can get told. Like again, the reason, and this is the reason I like rationalized the Odyssey the way I do now. I was like, okay, why would a man, why would an above average human, right, a great guy, why would he take on a Cyclops?
Yeah.
What part of you is like,
this is a good idea.
I have to fight this Cyclops. There's no other option. Where in your headspace are you like, okay, this thing is 20 feet tall, can crush me like a fly.
Yeah.
Literally, why do I, like, what aspect is literally driving me to the point where I can't avoid this conflict? You just keep asking yourself those questions kind of thing.
Like why and what if,
Okay. Oh, it's the only way to get back to
blah blah blah
to home, and home means that much to him. So he has his reason, right? You need a reason always. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, core reason. He's trying to get home. Is there another way to get home? Well, this is the fastest and the most, then the best, I guess, probability, or guess.
This is the best thing he came up with.
This is the best chance of him getting home in the most swiftest manner.
Yeah.
In a manner that makes logical sense to him. Okay, so he has to take on those Cyclops. All right. Or you could play it this way. Like, what would you do for, like, in his sense, love? Like, how far would you go for love? Would you fight a Cyclops for love? He goes, yes. All right. All right. Well, we'll have to depict that. Like, how would you fight the Cyclops?
Yeah.
And then you start world building around an idea. So you can do either way. You know what I mean? Like, you have 2 points and you go, how do I get A to B? Or you can go one big reason and like
you base it off
how far until that reason stops making sense, or does it not?
Yeah,
it just
endless.
Keep making sense to you exactly infinitely.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just like how some like passions or like some things you just get so attached to.
Yeah,
it just end all be all kind of.
All right, I have a question for you. If you had to write a book, what kind of book would it be?
To be honest, I don't know what it would be. The two things that come to my mind is one that would just be like, I don't know if it would be a story, but it'd be like a compilation of like all the lessons I've learned and how I learned them in a sense, like putting people in those specific scenarios to show them like why I learned this lesson or whatever. And the other would just be like maybe just off my imagination of like what I would like a world to be like.
Yeah.
But those are like the two main things like that on the top of my head.
I thought about that because I'm gonna answer that question as well because I liked it. because it shows a lot about who you are.
Yeah.
Right. So like from that, what I just got out of that is, you want to, like, low key, you want to show people your mindset. Like, this is how my mind functions in a sense. Like, and this is how it got shaped. And then B, like, this is how I think the world might be a better place.
Yeah.
You know. And like for me, I think the same way. I think very similar in that sense of like, okay, like, if I'm gonna write a story, like, why? Why am I writing the story? What do I want to compel to people? What is it? What's that aspect? For me, like, the first thing that came to mind was almost the same thing. Like, okay, I want people to see how I see things in a sense, without it being like, oh, this is the main character and I'm the main character.
Yeah.
No, I want to do it in a sense where you're like, oh, like, here's more of like conceptual ideas. Like, oh, this guy's all about love. Like, what to the point does he stop going on this journey?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what point in his world gets shattered? Does it? You know, will it? Or will he will he just like push himself to oblivion to get that point across? You know what I mean? And then I'll put my own mindset into or like we'd all hang out and we just collaborate on it. Like, all right, would you go this far for X?
Yeah.
Would you go Y? And then through that, like, maybe it builds a world that is better. So almost like, I guess, taking your idea and just combining the two.
Yeah. And just kind of doing a little what if and like just seeing like how the outcome goes.
Yeah. Or another take is just like plopping the reality of this world as it is, and then like how can it go to from my perspective if I had X ability or Y ability?
Yeah.
Like, what can I do with that ability to bring it to a better place? You know what I mean? If it all it took was, or what does it take? Is pretty much what's the question.
Like, what are we missing to improve?
Yeah. Yeah. What's that missing link that makes things that is halting us from getting past whatever hiccup it is?
Yeah.
In our world, because I feel like the world is in a hiccup of sorts.
We're kind of in limbo in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do to break out of limbo and put us on the right track?
Yeah.
Right? Because we could break out of limbo and just go straight to hell.
Yeah.
I think that's the struggle of limbo, don't you think?
You could go either way.
Yeah. I think it's always like a perpetual pull down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what do I need to do to keep
staying up? Yeah.
To stay light
afloat.
and stay floating. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's just limbo. It's like that process of like, you're getting to the sky or whatever direction is enlightenment for you.
Yeah.
Heaven, bliss, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Limbo is kind of like I guess you're stuck in like a cycle, but like every day that the cycle goes on, it just like somehow is getting worse or you're deteriorating in a sense. So like you got to break out of it. Yeah,
almost like well, I know in Egyptian mythology, right? Like when you died, what they did is they took your heart, they put it on a scale, and if it was heavier than a feather, then you weren't able to go to the afterlife.
Yeah.
But it wasn't heavy as in like literal its weight. Right, it was heavy in the sense of like
things on your mind or
like
how attached to it.
Like, why is your heart heavy?
Yeah,
you know, why are you so hardened? No, this is why. Oh, then you have no right to go to the afterlife because you're still clinging to things of reality.
Yeah, like are you at peace or not? Basically.
Exactly. So like for me, I'm always like there's something that always and now I know this. I want to take like a few minutes because we are going long on time on this one.
Yeah.
I want to take a few minutes. I'm going to switch the subject up just a tiny bit. Because, like, I don't know. I love existential talks.
Yeah.
And, like, as you can tell from, like, these kind of conversations, or most of our podcasts, and we take topics and we go to such a deep level with them. Or we try to. As we try to get away from the surface as much as possible.
Bring some like uniqueness to like how we think about things.
Of course, yeah. Dive really deep into mindsets of like topics just in general. But the idea of like afterlife and I don't know. So like going back to the idea of like the body, like the body's logged off when you go to sleep. Or where does the mind go? Like literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you can literally send your mind to whatever
realm or whatever
surreal reality you want to make it. You know, you just have to imagine it and think about it. You know, it happens so fast because you've gone through all the possible. I mean, again, this is a very opinionated idea. I think that and how my brain functions, or at least when we sleep. But it just runs through like a computer. It just runs through all of the possibilities of like where can my body go or where could my mind go if it didn't have a body.
Yeah.
Like, what if I could create a new body for it? Oh, boom. Right? So literally, you're just a consciousness just floating around. Like, is that what death is like? You know what I mean? Like, is that what death is? Like, is it just like the eternal log off of that body? And until
never comes back,
until a new body is ready for your soul or your mindset or whatever, your consciousness to enter, like a crab, you know what I mean? Like, you grew out of this shell, so now it's time to find a new one.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if that's like maybe maybe a possibility.
Yeah.
For how
it's kind of like a reboot in a sense.
It
like
takes
this
reincarnation
thing
in its own way, but like it doesn't place it on the idea of like, oh yeah. I guess it does, but I guess it's more modernized in a sense. Like, you can like kind of virtualize this idea of like, I don't know. Maybe I just put it into a perspective that people can like generalize. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean.
So when you think of reincarnation, what do you think of?
I feel like when I think of like reincarnation, for me, it's more like we're like a cell in a sense, and this is just like our host, and then you kind of like move from host to host. That's how I kind of think of it. But
I never thought about it because I always heard like, oh, like, do you believe in reincarnation? Do you think you're gonna die and come back a fly or something like that? And I was like, huh. So like, what essence of me is that me in the fly? You know what I mean? Like, where can I?
Like, how much do you retain from your previous?
Yeah, what part of identity is left?
Yeah.
Like, am I still Steven? Am I just Steven as a fly? You know what I mean? Or am I a fly with a new name and like my essence of me, my whole...
Yeah, like, are you starting over from scratch, or are you taking stuff from your previous...
Right. So like, what would that all mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, is it just a new chapter, or is it like a new book? Like,
right, exactly. And like, how can you make it whichever one?
Yeah.
But here's what I think, right? For when you sleep, because like I said, I think, and again, this is very heady, I think. So correct me if I'm wrong, or like shoot down my thought process if it sounds flawed, for sure. Anybody, like, I don't care. Please do. Like, enlighten me on the potentially a flawed mindset. But you go to sleep, you go through all possibilities of what your life can, could, would, should, may be. But yet you come back to this body, or you come back to yours.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're coming back to this body, for me, I feel like that means there's something. Like, it either means I've exhausted all possibilities, and this is just the one that
you have to come back to. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say have to come back to, but want to come back to.
Yeah.
Or there's something that keeps you grounded. Like,
kind of like the Odyssey thing.
Yeah, like the Odyssey, or even like if we want to go into the physics world, like electrical circuit. For a circuit to be complete, you need a ground. You
have to ground something. Yeah.
So is this body just that ground? And your mind is just that everlasting electrical current just floating through, and until you reach that ground state again, you know what I mean? Like, it just goes through this circuit of like everything. Like, what would that be for us then? Would that mean that we're very powerful beyond measure?
Yeah. Because
we can process all these lives that we've lived. You know, again, this is very big hypothetical. But like, if all this made any sense to people, then like, wouldn't that mean that this life, the one that's grounded, has to be something of significance?
Yeah, it's just like the Odyssey thing, like him going back home was something of significance to him. So if we're always coming back to this life, there's something that's like tying us here in a sense.
Yeah, like there's got to be a reason that, you know, like my brain's gone to dark places for sure. I've hit the abyss, I've hit depression and all that. But I've never there's never been that process of been like, it's over with.
Or like, this isn't worth it anymore.
Yeah, even in the act of doing it, right, getting close to that idea of like, if I just ended it, you know what I mean? Like, it was never that like, I want to go through with this. There was always that like something.
It was pulling you back.
Yeah, that one thing. I was just like hanging on to like the fibers of my shirt as thin as they can, just like pinching and pulling at me, like, nah, you really don't want to go through with this. And I couldn't explain it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's just something you feel, and
So like, okay, if that's the case, something in me of my essence, if reincarnation does exist, must have some importance in this lifetime, in this era, in this body, in this mind. There must be something of importance. And I say that for everybody who can think.
Yeah.
Everyone who thinks right? I think, therefore I am. Anyone who can complete that mind in their head can also see that way.
Yeah.
I don't speak on a solid mindset of like I'm the one and only. Like I think everybody's the one and only. But with every one and only, we all become one and only as a group.
Collective, yeah.
Yeah. So like, can you as a collective individually affect the rest? Based on a mindset, based on an essence of you.
I think you can.
I think so too. I think if you're really in tune with everything around you and who you are and the realities of your world, right? Everybody's world's different. Like in the next hour or so, you're gonna head out. You're no longer in my world.
Yeah.
Now you're in my mind because I think about you when I'm like hitting you up for basketball or some shit.
Yeah.
Or like, when I think of my friends, I'm like, oh, Vanille's in there.
Yeah. But in that moment, it's like out of sight, out of mind.
Literally.
Like,
Yeah. Like, oh yeah. No human exists right now except for me when no one else is around.
Yeah.
It's just my world and my reality in that present moment.
Yeah.
I could talk about the past all day long. I could talk about the future all day long. Oh, I'm going to go see Vanille, but I haven't seen him yet.
Yeah.
So
or I already saw him.
To a degree, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Until I can confirm that he's still within sight. What a crazy idea. What a crazy mind.
Yeah. What a crazy world.
What a crazy world. I mean, does that make sense though? Like, does that rationale make somewhat sense?
Yeah, I could see it. Like, when you're going to sleep, it's kind of like you're trying to find your way through, like, I guess, I don't want to say it's the abyss, but like, in a way, and then you're just kind of going back to where...
It's just limitless potential when you sleep. And yet you still wake up to this life.
Yeah.
So like, is limitless potential just not all it's cracked up to be? Like, or have we experienced so often that this life is like that almost escape from the escape?
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, like, it's a weird analogy, but sometimes in school, like, teachers will say you can sit wherever you want. So in that sense, you have limitless possibilities.
Yeah.
But what you notice is people will pick a seat and they'll just stay there.
Yeah.
So like they still have limitless possibilities, but very few people move around their seat.
That's really funny you bring that up because that used to be done too, and they would always like some of the teachers would even preface like after everyone sat down, like you guys probably won't move around.
Yeah.
Like they already knew that.
Yeah.
So like.
So maybe it is true. Like limitless possibility for a lot of people is not what it's cracked out to be.
Okay, and then on top of that, were you the kid to move around anyways?
Every once in a while, like if I like was late or something, I would just find whatever seat was open or like whatever. Like I'd shift around every once in a while, but for the most part, I didn't move around too much.
Well, it's just funny because I did. And what I've noticed when I did do that was the status flow. The chaos, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah, people are like, you're sitting in someone else's seat.
Yeah,
there's no assigned seats.
Exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say it sparks a little chaos because you've just taken something that someone believes is theirs.
It's also I also think it's partially because they got so oriented from seeing the classroom in that perspective that now they're like, this is throwing me off.
But that's why I always like changing seats.
Yeah, just get different perspectives.
I didn't care who I sat next to. I just liked to stir the pot a little bit in that sense, but at the same time, like why do I want to sit in this chair? No, I'll sit in the other chair today.
Yeah.
It's there. And then I loved the chaos it brought in the sense that people were like, that's my seat, or hey, like are you going to be sitting there all day? Like it throws everybody else out of whack.
Yeah, cuz they got to adjust now.
Yeah, cuz they like you're literally your routine of abnormalities in a classroom that tries to normalize things, like throws everything into whack.
Yeah.
Now that person you either do a straight swap and that person sits where you sit, or they just start a chain reaction and they sit where they want to sit, and the person who didn't get there has to do the same thing until almost like white elephant,
Yeah.
Wow. But again, that just goes to show like how plastic the mind can be, right? How moldable it can be, and at the same time how hardened you can shape it.
It could be smooth brain, or it could be like a lot of ridges.
Yeah, very much so. And how easily it happens. Like,
yeah.
They did a psychology experiment on this too, where like and you taken psych in high school, so I'm guaranteed you've seen the video where like they're in a little room, and it's a small little test. It's like they just show graph lines, right, or bar graphs. And they're like, okay, which ones match? And everyone will raise their hand on the wrong one, but in unison on the wrong one.
Oh, okay. I don't know if
you haven't seen this one?
I don't think I've.
So like, there's one guy who's unaware of what's happening, right? He's just taking the test like he thinks it's a test. But everyone else in the room is purposely picking the wrong answer, the one that's just slightly off. And in that slightness, like, you see conformity happens.
Or they're just like, oh, that person did it, so maybe it's...
Yeah, so initially, it's always funny, because initially they'll look, and they'll, like, get puzzled, like, are we all seeing the same thing? Because I see the correct answer differently from what you guys have all said.
Yeah.
So you'll see, like, a lot of hesitation, but as, like, more like, confirmation on... It's a confirmation bias kind of thing. Yeah. But, like, a confirmation on the falsity of answer. The guy starts to conform himself into it because he doesn't want to feel
like left out.
Yeah, black sheep. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. What the mind will do to feel like to
belong in a sense.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. To belong to something.
Yeah.
Because like if your mind doesn't belong to anything, then what is it?
Yeah.
Where does it go? What does it belong to? If it
Yeah.
Or does it belong to
anything?
Itself?
Yeah.
Then what is the mind?
Yeah. So many questions.
Always. And I'm always so intrigued by them.
Yeah. Alright, well, we should probably wrap up this episode.
Yeah, what a take. Alright, well, thank you guys for tuning in. It's your boy Maui.
And it's Bambi.
And this is Couch Surfing.
Peace.